Ladies and gentlemen, there is a man you may encounter in life, a man who walks his own path, a man who spends his hours in solitude. And let me tell you, this man is dangerous, not because he wields weapons or shouts from the rooftops, but because of the power he has built within himself. When you see him sitting alone, you might mistake him for being lonely, but he is not lonely. He is sharpening his mind, strengthening his spirit, and learning to find peace where others find chaos. While the world is distracted by noise, he listens to the quiet. While others chase approval, he finds fulfillment within. This man doesn't waste his time proving himself to anyone because he already knows who he is. You see, when a man spends time alone, he learns things most people will never understand. He learns discipline. He learns patience. He learns to fight battles within himself that others are too afraid to even acknowledge. In solitude, he confronts his fears, his doubts, his weaknesses, and he defeats them one by one. This man doesn't need validation because he has already faced the toughest critic he'll ever know himself. And when you've stared into the mirror and come out stronger, there isn't much the world can throw at you that will break you. That kind of inner strength is rare. That kind of confidence can't be faked. But let me be clear, this man is not dangerous in the way the world often defines it. He's not a threat to others, he's a threat to mediocrity, to complacency, to the idea that life is about following the crowd. He's dangerous because he shows what's possible when you stop running from the hard work of self-discovery. He's dangerous because he doesn't need distractions, he doesn't need applause. He doesn't need to be constantly surrounded by people to feel whole. And when someone like that steps into the world, they don't follow the trends. They don't bow to the pressures. They lead, they inspire, and they challenge others to rise higher. So, the next time you see someone who spends time alone, don't underestimate them. Don't pity them. That man isn't avoiding the world, he's preparing for it. He's building himself into someone you'll want on your side, or someone you'll wish you had never underestimated. Because a man who spends time alone is a man who knows his worth. And that, my friends, is the most dangerous kind of man there is. Strength in solitude. A man who spends time alone builds inner strength by confronting his fears, doubts, and weaknesses. Inner peace and self-awareness. While others seek external validation and distractions, he finds peace within himself and understands his own worth. Discipline and patience. Solitude teaches him the value of discipline and patience, allowing him to grow in ways many others never will. Independence from validation. He does not seek approval from others because he has already proven his worth to himself. A threat to mediocrity. This man challenges complacency, inspires greatness, and leads by example, embodying what's possible through self-discovery. Unshakable confidence. By mastering himself, he becomes resilient and unbreakable, capable of thriving regardless of external pressures or challenges. Strength in solitude is a profound concept that transforms the way we perceive ourselves and the world around us. When a man spends time alone, he embarks on an internal journey, one that demands facing the most daunting challenges within himself. This solitude is not about isolation or alienation from society. It is about discovering the immense power that lies in self-reflection and introspection. In these quiet moments, when the world is silenced and distractions are stripped away, a man has the opportunity to confront his own thoughts, fears, and uncertainties. In solitude, he learns to face the battles that others often avoid. There's no one to blame, no external circumstances to hide behind, and no noise to drown out the inner voice. This is where strength is forged, not in running away from discomfort, but in sitting with it and learning from it. A man who spends time alone must grapple with his own vulnerabilities. He must look his insecurities in the eye, acknowledge their presence, and find the resolve to overcome them. This is not an easy task, but it is a transformative one. Through this process, he develops a resilience that is unmatched. When a man builds strength in solitude, he no longer fears being alone because he understands that he is never truly alone. He is accompanied by his thoughts, his ambitions, and his unwavering belief in himself. This solitude becomes a crucible where self-reliance is tested and fortified. He learns that his worth is not defined by the opinions of others or by external validation, but by his own ability to stand firm even in the face of adversity. Solitude also offers clarity. When surrounded by noise and distractions, it can be difficult to separate what truly matters from what is superficial. A man who spends time alone gains the ability to strip away the unnecessary and focus on what is truly important. In these moments, he identifies his goals, his values, and his purpose. This clarity gives him direction, allowing him to move forward with confidence and determination. Moreover, strength in solitude is not just about confronting challenges, it is also about embracing creativity and innovation. When a man spends time with his own thoughts, he opens the door to new ideas and perspectives. He gives himself the freedom to think deeply and explore possibilities that might otherwise remain undiscovered. This creative energy is a byproduct of the peace and focus that solitude provides, allowing him to tap into a well of potential that is often overlooked in the chaos of daily life. Another aspect of strength in solitude is emotional fortitude. Spending time alone teaches a man how to process his emotions without external influence. He learns to understand what he feels and why he feels it, developing a deeper connection with himself. This emotional intelligence becomes a cornerstone of his strength, enabling him to navigate relationships and challenges with greater wisdom and composure. The physical act of being alone also becomes a training ground for mental toughness. It takes courage to step away from the crowd, to say no to distractions, and to prioritize one's own growth over temporary comforts. This discipline builds a foundation of strength that extends into every area of life. When challenges arise, he can draw on the resilience and focus he has cultivated in solitude. In essence, strength in solitude is the ability to face oneself fully and emerge stronger. It is a powerful reminder that growth often happens in the quiet, in the spaces where we are most vulnerable and most true to ourselves. A man who masters solitude becomes unshakable because he has done the work that so many shy away from. He has built strength not for show, but for the substance of who he is. This strength, born in solitude, becomes the foundation for every success, every triumph, and every meaningful moment that follows. Inner peace and self-awareness are among the most profound benefits a man gains from spending time alone. In a world constantly buzzing with noise, distractions, and demands, finding moments of solitude becomes a revolutionary act of self-care and growth. A man who dedicates time to himself steps away from the chaos, not to escape it, but to understand himself more deeply and reclaim a sense of calm that cannot be shaken by external forces. Inner peace is not something handed to us by the outside world, it is cultivated from within. It requires a deliberate effort to disconnect from the noise and embrace the silence. For a man who spends time alone, this silence is not something to fear, it is something to treasure. In the quiet, he begins to listen to his own thoughts without interruption. He starts to distinguish his true desires from the expectations imposed by others. This process of introspection allows him to peel back the layers of societal conditioning and discover his authentic self. The solitude he embraces is transformative. In those solitary moments, he learns to find contentment within, unshaken by external circumstances. Inner peace is not about the absence of challenges or difficulties. It's about maintaining a sense of calm and control, regardless of what life throws at him. When he spends time alone, he develops the ability to anchor himself in this peace. He doesn't rely on others to soothe his anxieties or validate his worth because he has cultivated a wellspring of tranquility within himself. This deep sense of peace also opens the door to self-awareness. A man who spends time alone learns to observe his own mind. He becomes conscious of his patterns of thought, his emotional triggers, and his responses to the world around him. This awareness is a powerful tool for growth. By understanding his inner workings, he gains the ability to change and evolve. He recognizes his strengths and weaknesses, not with judgment, but with a desire to grow. Through self-awareness, he becomes more intentional in his actions, He learns to align his choices with his values and purpose, rather than acting out of habit or societal pressure. This intentionality gives him a sense of control over his life that few people experience. When others are swept along by the currents of external expectations, he stands firm, guided by a clear understanding of who he is and what he wants. One of the most liberating aspects of inner peace and self-awareness is the freedom from external validation. A man who spends time alone doesn't need the approval of others to feel good about himself. He understands that his worth is not tied to accolades or recognition. This independence makes him resilient. He is not swayed by criticism, nor does he chase the fleeting highs of praise. Instead, he remains grounded, secure in his identity, and confident in his path. This sense of self-awareness also fosters healthier relationships. By knowing himself, he becomes better equipped to understand and connect with others. He communicates more authentically and sets boundaries that protect his peace. He is not afraid to walk away from relationships that drain him, nor does he hesitate to invest in those that enrich his life. His inner peace becomes a source of stability, not just for himself, but for those around him. Spending time alone also helps him master his emotions. When the world grows quiet, he is left to process his feelings without distraction. He learns to sit with discomfort, to explore the roots of his anger, sadness, or fear. This emotional intelligence allows him to navigate life with grace. He doesn't react impulsively or let his emotions control him. Instead, he responds thoughtfully, guided by the calm and clarity he has nurtured in solitude. Inner peace and self-awareness are not static states, they are practices that require continuous effort. A man who dedicates time to solitude understands this. He knows that every moment spent alone is an opportunity to deepen his connection with himself, to refine his understanding of his values and purpose, and to fortify his sense of peace. In this way, his solitude becomes his sanctuary, a place where he can recharge, reflect, and emerge stronger, more centered, and more fully himself. Discipline and patience are among the most valuable virtues a man can cultivate, and solitude serves as the perfect training ground for both. When a man spends time alone, he steps into an environment where there are no distractions, no external pressures, and no one else to hold him accountable. It is in this space of quiet and self-reliance that discipline and patience are forged, creating a foundation for enduring strength and success. Discipline begins with the ability to focus on what matters most. In a world filled with constant noise and endless demands for attention, solitude provides the clarity necessary to prioritize. A man who spends time alone learns to set goals and follow through with them, even when no one is watching. This self-discipline is not imposed by an external authority, it is an internal commitment to excellence. He understands that real progress is made not through grand gestures, but through consistent, deliberate effort over time. In solitude, there are no shortcuts, no instant gratification. He must rely on his own resolve to stay the course, to show up every day for himself and his aspirations. This is where patience comes into play. Solitude teaches him that true success is not achieved overnight. It is the result of persistence, of showing up again and again, even when the results seem slow or non-existent. Patience is the strength to endure the process, to trust in the journey even when the destination feels distant. Solitude also teaches a man how to manage his time effectively. Without the distractions of others or the obligations of social interaction, he is left with himself in the hours of the day. This can be daunting, but it is also liberating. He learns to structure his time intentionally, to dedicate moments to self-improvement, reflection, and the pursuit of his goals. Discipline becomes the compass that guides him, ensuring that he uses his time wisely and productively. Another critical aspect of discipline and patience cultivated in solitude is the ability to delay gratification. In solitude, there are no external rewards to chase, no applause to seek. This forces a man to find satisfaction in the process itself rather than the outcome. He learns to appreciate the small, incremental progress he makes each day. This mindset not only fosters patience but also builds resilience. He becomes less reliant on external validation and more attuned to his own intrinsic motivation. Solitude also challenges a man to confront his own limitations. When there is no one else to lean on, he must learn to push through discomfort, to stay focused when distractions arise, and to keep going when the path gets tough. This is the essence of discipline: to remain steadfast in the face of difficulty, to persevere when giving up would be easier. Over time, this practice of self-discipline becomes a habit, a way of life that serves him in all areas of his existence. Patience, too, grows through the practice of sitting with discomfort. Solitude forces a man to face moments of stillness, to embrace the slow unfolding of growth and change. In a world that often glorifies speed and immediacy, this is a radical act. He learns to accept that some things cannot be rushed, that the most meaningful achievements require time and effort. This patience extends to his relationships, his career, and his personal development, making him more composed and thoughtful in his interactions with others. Furthermore, the combination of discipline and patience creates a powerful synergy. Discipline ensures that he continues to take action even in the face of challenges, while patience allows him to endure setbacks without losing sight of his ultimate goals. Together, they form a resilient mindset that enables him to weather life's storms and emerge stronger on the other side. Discipline and patience cultivated in solitude also have a transformative impact on a man's character. He becomes someone who is dependable, someone who can be trusted to follow through on his commitments. He learns to value hard work and perseverance, to take pride in the effort rather than just the outcome. This character development not only benefits him personally, but also inspires others who witness his journey. Ultimately, the discipline and patience gained through solitude become the tools that enable a man to create a life of purpose and fulfillment. They are the quiet strengths that guide him through challenges, keep him grounded in his principles, and empower him to achieve his aspirations with integrity and grace. These virtues, forged in solitude, become his greatest assets, shaping him into a person who not only succeeds but thrives in the face of life's complexities. Independence from validation is a rare and powerful trait, and a man who spends time alone develops this quality with unmatched depth. In solitude, he learns to detach from the external affirmations that so many people chase, discovering that true self-worth comes from within. This independence is not born from arrogance or indifference. Rather, it stems from a deep understanding of who he is and a commitment to living authentically, free from the weight of others' opinions. In the quiet moments of solitude, there is no audience. There is no one to applaud his successes or criticize his failures. Without these external voices, he is left with only his own perspective, and he is forced to confront the question, what truly matters to me? This introspection becomes the foundation for his independence. He learns to measure his life not by societal standards or the approval of others, but by his own principles, values, and aspirations. This shift is transformative. When a man is no longer reliant on external validation, he gains a level of freedom that few ever experience. He is no longer bound by the need to conform or to please others. He stops chasing fleeting trends, shallow accolades, or the approval of people who don't truly know or understand him. Instead, he begins to live on his own terms, guided by an internal compass that points him toward what is meaningful and fulfilling. One of the most liberating aspects of this independence is the ability to embrace authenticity. A man who spends time alone comes to understand that pretending to be someone he's not is a betrayal of himself. In solitude, there is no one to impress, no masks to wear. This environment allows him to explore his true identity, to acknowledge both his strengths and weaknesses without fear of judgment. Over time, this self-acceptance becomes the bedrock of his confidence. He no longer needs to seek approval because he has already given himself permission to be exactly who he is. This independence from validation also makes him resilient in the face of criticism and rejection. When a man's sense of worth is rooted in external opinions, he becomes vulnerable to the whims of others. Praise can lift him up, but criticism can just as easily tear him down. A man who has spent time cultivating his inner strength through solitude, however, is unshaken by the opinions of others. He understands that criticism, whether fair or not, does not define him. He takes what is constructive, discards what is not, and continues moving forward with confidence. Moreover, independence from validation fosters an inner peace that cannot be easily disrupted. Many people live their lives in constant pursuit of approval, their happiness tied to the affirmations of others. This creates a cycle of anxiety and dissatisfaction because external validation is fleeting and often out of their control. A man who is independent of this need, however, finds stability within himself. He learns to value his own judgment, to trust his instincts, and to celebrate his achievements privately without needing the spotlight. This self-contained fulfillment becomes a source of profound contentment. This independence also empowers him to make decisions with clarity and conviction. When he is no longer swayed by the opinions of others, he can focus on what truly aligns with his values and goals. He doesn't hesitate to take risks or pursue unconventional paths because he is not afraid of what others might think. This courage to stand alone and trust in his vision often leads to greater success and satisfaction, as he is able to chart a course that is uniquely his own. In relationships, this independence enhances his ability to connect authentically with others. He does not enter into relationships seeking validation or approval, nor does he cling to unhealthy dynamics out of fear of judgment. Instead, he engages with others from a place of self-assurance, offering genuine connection rather than a need for affirmation. This makes his relationships stronger and more meaningful because they are built on mutual respect and understanding rather than dependency. Ultimately, a man who is independent of validation becomes a beacon of strength and inspiration. His life is not defined by the fleeting opinions of others, but by his own unwavering sense of purpose and identity. This independence, cultivated in solitude, allows him to move through the world with confidence, authenticity, and an unshakable sense of self. It is this freedom, this ability to live for himself rather than for others, that makes him truly powerful. A man who spends time alone becomes a threat to mediocrity because he refuses to settle for less than his full potential. Solitude offers him a space to break free from the conventions and limitations that hold others back. In a world where so many people are content to follow the crowd, play it safe, and live within the boundaries of what's familiar, the man who chooses solitude sets himself apart. He doesn't conform to the standards of mediocrity because he is busy creating his own path, driven by a relentless pursuit of excellence and growth. Mediocrity thrives in the comfort of routine and groupthink. It is sustained by the fear of stepping out of line, the reluctance to question norms, and the desire for acceptance over individuality. A man who spends time alone, however, does not rely on the opinions or approval of others to define his worth or his choices. This independence allows him to think deeply, to question assumptions, and to challenge the status quo. He refuses to accept things as they are simply because they have always been that way. In solitude, he has the time and mental space to dream bigger, to envision possibilities that others might dismiss as unrealistic. In this quiet space, he becomes a visionary. Without the noise of the crowd to distract him, he can focus on his goals and ambitions with clarity and purpose. He is not influenced by what others deem achievable or acceptable. Instead, he sets his sights on what truly matters to him. This self-directed mindset is the antithesis of mediocrity, which is often rooted in the fear of failure or the need to blend in. The man who spends time alone is not afraid to fail, because he understands that failure is a necessary part of growth. He embraces challenges as opportunities to learn, to improve, and to push himself beyond his current limits. His refusal to settle for mediocrity is evident in his commitment to continuous self-improvement. While others may become complacent, satisfied with doing just enough to get by, he uses his solitude to cultivate his skills, expand his knowledge, and strengthen his character. He holds himself to a higher standard, not because anyone else demands it, but because he demands it of himself. In solitude, he discovers that the greatest competition he faces is with the man he was yesterday. This drive to constantly outdo himself propels him forward, far beyond the reach of mediocrity. The man who spends time alone also becomes a threat to mediocrity because he inspires others to rise above it. His actions, his discipline, and his achievements challenge those around him to reconsider their own limitations. He becomes a living example of what is possible when you refuse to settle, when you choose growth over comfort, and when you prioritize purpose over approval. His success doesn't just disrupt the norm, it sets a new standard. For some, this is uncomfortable. Mediocrity finds safety in numbers, and his willingness to break free from the crowd shines a light on the compromises others have made. But for those ready to step up, his example becomes a source of motivation and encouragement. Furthermore, solitude gives him the resilience to withstand the criticism and resistance that often come with challenging mediocrity. Not everyone will celebrate his determination to rise above the ordinary. Some will misunderstand him, dismiss him, or even resent him for refusing to conform. But the time he has spent alone has prepared him for this. He has built the strength to stand firm in his convictions, to stay focused on his goals, and to continue striving for excellence regardless of the opinions of others. His impact extends beyond his personal achievements. The man who spends time alone disrupts mediocrity not just for himself, but for the systems and environments he engages with. In his workplace, his community, or his personal relationships, he brings a level of passion, focus, and integrity that elevates those around him. His presence raises the bar, inspiring others to abandon complacency and embrace their own potential for greatness. Ultimately, the man who spends time alone becomes a threat to mediocrity because he embodies the courage, discipline, and vision needed to rise above it. In a world where settling is easy and striving is rare, he chooses the harder path, the path of self-discovery, relentless improvement, and uncompromising purpose. Through his solitude, he not only transforms himself, but also challenges and inspires others to break free from mediocrity and pursue lives of meaning and excellence. A man who spends time alone possesses a unique advantage in understanding the power of strategy and reflection. Solitude grants him the mental space to observe, analyze, and plan his next moves with precision and clarity. While others may act impulsively, reacting to circumstances as they arise, the man who embraces time alone operates differently. He becomes a master strategist, using quiet moments to think deeply, anticipate challenges, and position himself for success. The first key to this power lies in reflection. Solitude provides the opportunity to look inward and assess past actions, decisions, and outcomes. A man who spends time alone does not shy away from this process. Instead, he embraces it as an essential part of growth. He examines his successes to understand what worked and why. He reviews his failures, not with regret, but with a determination to learn from them. This reflection enables him to identify patterns, refine his approach, and make better decisions moving forward. In solitude, he develops the ability to think critically and objectively. Without the noise of outside influences, he can evaluate situations from multiple angles, weighing the pros and cons of each potential course of action. This habit of deliberate thought makes him less likely to be swayed by emotions or the opinions of others. Instead, his decisions are guided by careful analysis and a deep understanding of his own goals and values. This clarity gives him an edge, allowing him to act with confidence and purpose. Solitude also fosters creativity, which is a crucial element of strategic thinking. When a man spends time alone, he is free to explore new ideas without judgment or interruption. He allows his mind to wander, to connect seemingly unrelated concepts, and to envision possibilities that others might overlook. This creative process often leads to innovative solutions and bold strategies that set him apart from those who rely solely on conventional thinking. The power of strategy cultivated in solitude extends beyond individual decisions. It shapes how he approaches life as a whole. A man who spends time alone understands the importance of having a long-term vision. He does not simply react to the present moment, he plans for the future. In his quiet moments, he sets goals, identifies the steps needed to achieve them, and anticipates potential obstacles. This Proactive mindset allows him to stay ahead, turning challenges into opportunities and setbacks into stepping stones. Another advantage of solitude is the ability to observe. A man who spends time alone becomes a keen observer of people, environments, and trends. By stepping back from the crowd, he gains perspective, noticing details that others might miss. This observational skill enhances his strategic thinking, enabling him to understand dynamics, predict outcomes, and navigate complex situations with ease. He becomes adept at reading between the lines, identifying hidden opportunities, and avoiding potential pitfalls. In addition to planning and observation, solitude teaches patience, a critical component of effective strategy. A man who spends time alone learns that success often requires waiting for the right moment to act. He is not driven by impatience or the need for immediate results. Instead, he is willing to bide his time, knowing that thoughtful preparation and timing are essential to achieving his goals. This patience gives him a significant advantage over those who rush into decisions without fully considering their implications. Solitude also strengthens his resolve and discipline, qualities that are essential for executing a strategy effectively. Once he has developed a plan, he is committed to following it through, even when challenges arise or the path becomes difficult. His time alone has taught him to trust in his process, to remain focused on his objectives, and to resist the temptation to deviate from his course. This unwavering commitment ensures that his strategies yield results. The man who spends time alone also understands that strategy is not static, it must evolve with changing circumstances. Solitude allows him to regularly revisit and adjust his plans, ensuring they remain relevant and effective. This adaptability makes him not only a strategist but also a leader, capable of guiding himself and others through uncertainty with confidence and clarity. Ultimately, the power of strategy and reflection cultivated in solitude becomes one of his greatest strengths. It enables him to approach life with intention, to make decisions that align with his values and goals, and to navigate challenges with wisdom and foresight. In a world that often prioritizes action over thought, the man who spends time alone stands out as a thinker, a planner, and a visionary capable of shaping his own destiny and inspiring others to do the same. In solitude, a man becomes unstoppable, grounded in self-awareness, fortified by discipline, free from validation, unbound by mediocrity, guided by strategy, and driven by reflection. This inner power transforms him into a force capable of overcoming challenges, inspiring others, and achieving greatness. A man who spends time alone is not to be underestimated, for he has mastered himself, and that is the ultimate strength.